It has often been said before that if you ever want to know who is in control, all you have to do is ask yourself this one question. Who can you not question? Well, in Australia, the answer is, of course, going to be the religion of Islam. Basically, what happened in Australia was the Act Parliament passed a religious vilification law. And what it said is this. Vilification on the grounds of religion is now illegal and in serious cases could result in a criminal conviction with a fine of up to $7,500 under laws passed by the Act Parliament on Thursday. Both Labour and Liberals supported the move, but by the Greenshane's Rattenberry, who said the display of hatred, intolerance, and offensive behaviour towards Muslims was one of the biggest intolerance issues in Australia today. The University of South Australia had found about 10% of Australians were highly Islamophobic, and while the app showed the lowest rates in the country, Islamophobia was still significant there. It is clear Muslims are frequently, almost constantly, exposed to discrimination, vilification, and targeted offensive behavior, he said. Thursday's changes to the Discrimination Act also added disability to the list, so it is now illegal to vilify someone because of disability, religion, race, sexuality, gender identity, and HIV/AIDS status. Vilification can include social media posts, actions in a workplace, and wearing clothes, signs, or flags that would incite hatred, contempt, ridicule, or revulsion. Liberal leader Jeremy Hanson said the Liberals wanted a harmonious, multicultural society free from extremism. He had been shot at by Sunni and Shiite extremists and by the IRA, so he knew firsthand the consequences of extremism, but others in the community experienced the consequences daily. Christians and Jews were also vilified for their beliefs and would be protected by the new legislation, he said. Attorney General Simon Corbell said the change was not designed to limit freedom of speech, but to ensure the political discourse does not descend into hatred. Protection against discrimination, as opposed to vilification, were also extended on Thursday with new bans on discrimination on the basis of accommodation status, employment status, genetic information, immigration status, intersex status, physical features, altered sex, and being a victim of domestic and family violence. Okay, a few things have to be gotten out of the way. First of all, am I the only one who picked up that they went and said that Australia has found about 10% of Australians were highly Islamophobic? And I'm just sitting here like 10%. So the other 90 are moderate to low as far as being Islamophobic. Somehow, I'm not worried and I don't see this as a problem, especially not one big enough to make it so that you cannot question a religion. I don't care if the religion is Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, or whatever. The fact that you go and say you cannot question this usually sends up red flags, because apparently if you can't question something, that kind of tells you that the thing you can't question cannot go and actually handle it. It cannot handle criticism. It cannot go and handle being examined. It cannot handle people actually using their own brain and realizing, hey, wait a minute, none of this stuff makes any sense. So to go and sit and say you cannot criticize this kind of tells me that, yeah, that what you are defending is essentially a pile of bullshit. But that's not the only thing that bothers me. It also goes on and says, Attorney General Simon Corbell said the change was not designed to limit freedom of speech, and then comes the almighty but. This isn't going to be a bad thing, but, and I'm like, well, okay, so you're just going to contradict yourself in the exact same sentence. To ensure the political discourse does not descend into hatred. Okay, tell me this. What counts as hatred? Can you tell me? Because apparently what's hate speech and what's offensive tends to go and vary from person to person. Alright? The stuff that I'm okay with, another person might not be able to stand. So apparently we already got it set up so that we have a very broad definition of what counts as hate speech. For example, if I went and cited just about anything in the Quran, that would probably be considered hate speech against Muslims. I'm not kidding. Read the Quran. There's a lot of stuff that is beyond reasonable. It's all very draconian, and it looks like the person who wrote this stuff was some kind of insane person who actively hated different demographics and wanted to go and be as draconian and medieval as he could towards them. And before anyone gets mad at me and says, well, you know what? You're being Islamophobic in what you're saying. No. Islamophobia is not racism. Having a problem with Muslims is not racism. In fact, let me tell you this. Islam is a religion. A Muslim is a follower of Islam. Okay? This is like saying Christianity is a religion and a Christian is a follower of Christianity. Alright, this has nothing to do with race. Middle Eastern has to do with race. If I hated all Middle Easterns, I would be racist. But having a problem with Islam for reasons that actually matter is not an act of phobia. A phobia means you have an irrational fear of something, like arachnophobia. It means you got an irrational fear of spiders. Well, okay, I don't have an irrational fear of Islam. I have a rational fear of Islam. And the reason I say this is because the stuff that Islam preaches is not a group I would like to be part of. No, listen to this stuff. In the Muslim world, misogyny is basically a homegrown practice. For example, it takes 2 women just to equal the opinion of 1 man. And the Quran actually tells men never to go and be between 2 women because then he is on even ground. And the reason it says that is because women are being viewed as mentally deficient in the head. Also, keep in mind, Islam is a very honor-based religion. And what happens is honor is in the man while shame is in the woman. And when you go and hear this, it kind of makes sense then that, of course, the Quran's going to say, well, you know what? Most of the people in hell, it's all women. Why? Because they have dishonored their husbands. That's why. You dishonor your husband, you go to hell. Simple as that. So if you live the lifestyle of a chaste and pure woman and who's only dedicated towards her husband, your payoff is to get to watch your husband in paradise as he fucks 72 virgins and however many prepubescent boys. No, seriously, that's all you get. You get to go and see your husband have a good time. So, going to heaven for a woman doesn't really tend to mean anything. And if you think that's bad, wait till you get a load of the next one. It actually says in the Quran that a woman, even while baking bread at the communal oven, should still be expected to have sex with her husband at any given time, whensoever the husband demands it. So, apparently, in the Islam religion, if you're a woman, we don't care about your brains. We don't care about your intelligence. You're a woman. You're mentally deficient. You have no place in ordering anyone around. Your go is that wet spot between your legs and to go and bring me a sandwich. But this is only the tip of the iceberg of stuff that's wrong with it. Wait until you go and look at the racism within it. This group is highly racist, like you wouldn't believe. For example, what they go and do to the Jews. If you're a Jew in a country that's ruled by Islam, as a Jew, you're expected to be taxed no less than 50% of your income. Also, if you're a Christian, guess what? You actually have to pay a special heathen tax. That's right, you gotta fund the people who are oppressing you. And I think if you're an atheist, they just straight up kill you because you're a non-believer of any religion. And also, we already know about what's going to happen if you're gay. In these countries, being gay means we have a right to kill you because, get this, apparently, to an Islamist, anyone that's not a part of your little in-group, they're nothing more than firewood for hell. So anyone that does anything that's against Islam or even doesn't even believe in it, they're not even human. Let's go and kill them. And besides which, we're doing the world a favor by making it a better place. So, yeah, if you're open with the idea of, let's kill everyone who thinks different than we do, well, Islam is your religion to follow. And it continues on into slavery. For example, I'm not talking just about taking whoever and making them a slave. No, I'm not talking just about that. I'm also talking about sexual slavery. Apparently, as a Muslim, in order to go and not commit adultery, it is permissible to go and abduct heathen women and make them your sex slave. And guess what? If they don't want to have sex, don't worry. Torture is A-OK. All you gotta do is just light the fucker on fire and watch them burn. Because, hey, you go and light some bitch on fire, eventually word gets around, and suddenly the other remaining women in your harem all of a sudden no longer has a problem sleeping with you. And even if you went and looked beyond that, like what happens if you're an unbeliever, in the Islam religion, drawing and quartering someone and then killing them is A-okay. Because, hey, what did you expect? Islam is a Bronze Age religion here we're talking about. It's been around for about 12 to 1300 years. Hasn't changed a bit. And of course, last but not least, we go and have pedophilia because the youngest wife of Muhammad was 9 years old, but he waited 3 years before actually sleeping with her when she was 12. But if you think that's messed up, wait until you hear what actually happened during modern day times. There was this one kid who was 6 years old, and she was married to a 50 or 60-year-old priest of Islam. And this stuff actually happens in contemporary times. So, basically, just to go and make sure that you got this all straight, that means if you are a follower of Islam, then that means because you practice this religion, and this religion does not go and acknowledge any quote-unquote man-made borders, which is to say other states and countries, then that means, of course, as a Muslim, you are entirely expected to go and practice like you are living in your own country in the Middle East. So what this means is, if for whatever reason, as a Muslim, you want to go ahead and kidnap a 6-year-old girl, make her your sex slave, who is then routinely demeaned, dehumanized, and told that because she is a woman, there is no difference between her and, quote-unquote, a lollipop that has been dropped on the ground. Yes, little kids growing up in elementary school are actually taught this about women, surprisingly. And not only that there, but it's also permissible to tell this exact same person that because she is a non-believer, anything that this pedophile 60-year-old man wants to do to her is permissible. And yes, we can go and sit and say all day how I'm such an Islamophobe, and I'm like, well, okay, but this is what they preach. This is what they believe. Islam is not being hijacked by extremists. Islam is being practiced the way it should with terrorist organizations such as ISIS. And keep in mind, Muhammad is supposed to go and be the example by which all Muslims are expected to follow, okay? Everything I just talked about, Muhammad did it! I'm not kidding. There's one scene with a Jew where he actually went and started a fire on the Jew's chest until the Jew went and paid him the money that was owed in taxes. I am not making this up. Everything I've just mentioned, Muhammad did, practiced, and endorsed. And you're telling me, the guy that everyone is looking up to, an example, that this is A-okay in the modern day world. And keep in mind, the biggest kicker of all is that Muhammad's entire claim to divinity is his words alone. In other words, this guy came out of a cave after so many days and said, yeah, I'm God's prophet. No one went and saw this. No one can corroborate his story. It's just Muhammad's words alone is his entire ticket to divinity here. By this logic, I could go and start my own religion tomorrow, come out with insane practices that are just simply draconian and just simply curb stomp human rights to the ground, and guess what? I'm probably going to be arrested and locked up in an insane asylum for the criminally insane. That's the only difference between 12 to 1300 years ago and today. And yet, here it is, the stuff that would get you locked up today, we are defending. We are defending this religion that was just simply made up by one guy. And yes, if you're a Muslim and saying that I have just blasphemed Muhammad, okay, guess what? I really don't care. I don't. I do not care if you want to go and believe in the Tooth Fairy. I don't care if you want to believe in Santa Claus. If you want to believe in this stuff, go right ahead. That's your choice. However, don't go around killing people just because their beliefs are different than yours. This is why I'm against Islam. It's not because people want to go and follow a bullshit religion. If someone wants to follow this stuff, let them. However, my issue is that if you don't agree and you criticize it, they will kill you. That is why I hate Islam. Because they actively cannot handle criticism. They cannot tolerate it. They cannot support it. And they will not survive in an environment that allows and endorses it. If you have so much faith in your religion, then apparently one person, one heretic, who goes and disbelieves everything you say should not be that much of a threat. If your religion is so sound and rooted in truth as you claim it is, then apparently you can go and ignore everything I am saying and allow me to live on in peace. But you can't do that, because you know that if you did that, then apparently I might go and awaken other people and tell them the same thing, and they go and realize that your belief is full of shit. And I don't mean just the Muslims getting too religious in their zeal and all. No. I'm saying that in the Quran, it actually tells you, kill anyone who questions Islam or Muhammad. Quran 33:57. Lo, those who malign Allah and His Messenger, Allah hath cursed them in this world and the hereafter, and has prepared for them the doom of the disdained. A curse they will be seized wherever found and slain with a fierce slaughter. In other words, yes, the Quran teaches you, do not question anything. Do not use your brain. Just follow like an obedient sheep and go about what a 1,300-year-old dead, insane pedophile and warmonger had to say. And yes, everything I just said will get me killed if I ever get caught by one of these insane Islamists. Keep in mind, in the Islam religion, questioning Islam, Allah, or Muhammad, raising valid points, or disbelieving anything about them will get you killed. Murder is excessively permitted so that people do not ask questions and to go and stifle dissent. In fact, it's so bad that back in 2005, British Muslims actually campaigned to pass a religious hate speech law in England's parliament and seceded. However, as a Muslim, they can still go around and read passages in the Quran that call for harsh treatment of Jews and Christians. So here it is, they can go and use propaganda all they want, and this is A-OK. However, if you go and question Islam, the Quran, or Muhammad, you will be charged with a hate crime because you are actively opposing Muslims preaching hatred. And don't even get me started on the Allahu Akbar crap, okay? No, seriously, every time a Muslim kills someone, the next thing out of their mouth is Allahu Akbar! Which is basically translates into God is great. Look, I'm not quite sure what God you worship, where killing someone is how you venerate your deity. However, if I had to take a crack at it, I'd probably think that you were worshipping Baal, Moloch, or just all around Satan. The kind of God that I can imagine would get off on being venerated by murder. And yes, I have no idea if Muhammad was just some kind of advanced L. Ron Hubbard. For all I know, this guy could have been making up Allah altogether. Just some insert deity here to go and get everyone focused on and to believe in. Or who knows, maybe he was just insane. I mean, think about it. The way this guy acted, he was a very paranoid person. Couldn't handle criticism. Just questioning him or making a light insult against him would have gotten you killed. And this was what Muhammad did while he was still above ground and walking about. Can you go and really expect me to believe that his followers are going to act any different? Keep in mind, Muhammad is the example by which every other Muslim is expected to lead their life. Never mind, of course, that Muhammad ended up dying the death of a false prophet. No. It wasn't just that. The person who did it was actually a Jewish woman. Now, sit down here for just a minute. Here it is. We got this guy who hates the Jews. Can't stand them. Despises every last Jewish person there is. And also, he thinks women are these walking dimwits who have no purpose except to go and make food and have sex. And keep in mind, here's the priceless part of it. Here it is, after killing a bunch of Jews and everything else, he was approached by a Jewish woman asking to go and cook food for him, and he said, sure, I love lamb, let's go and eat. Didn't you think something was weird about that? You know, the people that you just went and got done killing not too long ago, and now one of them shows up and asks, hey, how about dinner? And not only that there, but keep in mind, when Muhammad went and ate this lamb that was poisoned, what happened was he ate it and then went and said the lamb told him that it was poisoned. And the kicker is that one of the people that was with him actually already tasted the poison beforehand. He already knew this here was poison, but because he saw that Muhammad was going to go ahead and eat it, he's like, oh yeah, well, if he's going to go ahead and eat this poisoned lamb, it must be safe. No. Well, guess what happened? Apparently, he ended up dying. And so did Muhammad. About 3 years later, Muhammad ended up dying from the poison that he went and ingested. But I'll be fair to the woman who went and did this. she, at the very least, did give him a chance to prove his divinity. She basically went and said, well, if you're a prophet, you have nothing to worry about, but if you're a king, you're going to go and die. In other words, if Allah is really protecting you, guess what? You have nothing to worry about, because the poison won't affect you. And Muhammad, of course, went and said, well, there's no way Allah is going to allow me to die. Well, guess what? Allah allowed Muhammad to die. And this becomes a really important note, because keep in mind, Muhammad wanted to go and be a martyr for Allah, be brought back to life, just so he could be a martyr again. This is what Muhammad wanted to go and do. Instead, Muhammad ends up dying the death of a false prophet. Here's the kicker. The thing that really puts the final nail in the coffin is that Muhammad's been going around for a long time saying that if he was indeed a false prophet, he would go and have his life vein, or basically his left aorta, cut. So basically, this was kind of like, at the time, like going around and saying, and if I'm lying, then may God strike me dead. Well, okay, turns out God didn't strike Muhammad dead. He did, however, wait until he completed everything that he wanted done, and then he killed him. And yes, I do believe that Muhammad is a false prophet, and I'm going to prove it by reading Sahih al-Bukhari 4428. The prophet in his ailment in which he died used to say, "O Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar, and at this time I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison." Now, a few people can go and argue, well, he wasn't being literal, he was being figurative. Fine, you can go and make that assumption if you want. However, here's what I believe when it actually happened. Muhammad has been going around and saying for so long that he was Allah's prophet. And what happened was, every time Muhammad wanted something, he suddenly had a quote-unquote revelation that suddenly got him what he wanted. For example, when Aisha ended up being accused of adultery, he suddenly had a revelation that ended up protecting her from being killed. And no, I am not suggesting, I am outright stating that Muhammad basically went around and just made shit up. Every time he wanted something, he suddenly had a revelation that got him what he wanted. And so here it is, for years now, he's been going around saying he's Allah's prophet and everything else, and he's going on and getting his hearts and dreams met and everything, and the thing of it is, he has basically carte blanche to do whatever because, hey, you know, this stuff that came later, well, that supersedes what came before it. So there's flowery passages that talk about peace and everything else. Yeah, well, the new stuff that preaches conversion by the sword, that's what you really live by. So this stuff comes later. That's the true interpretation you should be following. And keep in mind, if you're basically a snake oil salesman, this is a pretty neat idea. This way you don't have to worry about internal consistency. And also, just for fun, if the Quran was really the word of Allah, think for a moment. What about the entire sheep eating the only known transcript concerning what to do to go and keep a man from wanting to go and sleep with a woman? And the answer was, have the woman go and breastfeed the man 10 times, and then after that, the woman would be sort of his foster mother, and then he wouldn't want to have sex with her anymore because that'd be incest. And what happened is Muhammad ended up whittling it down to 5, and so I'm like, well, okay, so same idea, but here it is, you're saying going to have to breastfeed the man 10 times, and now you're saying 5. So which is the right one? And again, so if Allah is supposed to be all-powerful, and the Quran is supposed to be Allah's words alone, then please explain to me how Allah is so powerless that he cannot stop a woman, let alone a sheep, from eating the pages that actually has the divine words written on them. And keep in mind, this is at the time that Muhammad died, okay? So after he died, that's when the pages got inked, so apparently there's no way to go and get what was actually written on them back. And to be fair, Muhammad's wives, considering how he died, I'm pretty sure they realized that here it is, he's saying like, oh no, it feels like my aorta's being cut. I'm pretty sure they all started to go and talk amongst themselves and be like, I don't think this guy is Allah's prophet at all. And so what did they go and do? Well, they went and got rid of this trash because I don't care who you are, but putting your tits in a man's mouth is not going to stop wanting to have sex with this woman. In fact, it's probably going to end up doing the exact opposite. I'm just saying. So here it is. There's already a lot of stuff going on that really goes and puts Muhammad's divinity in question big time. And people could, of course, make the argument, well, you're using religious teachings to discredit Muhammad, where these religious teachings came from. Do you not see a contradiction there in that statement? No, I don't. Because, again, like I said, Allah, if he actually does exist, the worst thing he could have done was just play along with Muhammad. Wait until he got everything he wanted, then kill him and expose him as a fraud. Unfortunately, the joke was pretty much one-sided because apparently no one else picked up on it. So, if Allah really does exist, all I'm saying is, you really do not want to follow Muhammad. Now, you can continue to follow him if you want. That's your choice, okay? You want to follow a false prophet, you do that. I am not going to stop you. However, you're going to follow someone that was just another man placed on this earth and not some kind of divine influence, then I really have to question your priorities here. So all I can tell you is this here. If you want to follow Muhammad, you go and follow Muhammad. And then when you lift your eyes in hell, he will be standing beside you. You will finally be reunited with your prophet in hell. That's all I'm going to go and say. Now, of course, being presented with this information, the question is, how does one act? Well, let's see. We can always go ahead, reflect on it, think about it, learn a little bit more about what you actually believe in, go and wonder if it's still true or not, But let's be honest. What we're going to really do is just kill the messenger. It's kind of like what Stalin said. When a man brings you a problem, kill the man. Because no man, no problem. Same thing here. If someone raises inconsistencies with your belief, just kill them. Because apparently when you kill someone, that is usually the ultimate form of censorship. Except for when it isn't. Keep in mind, I'm kind of banking on being hunted down and killed for this video. I don't want to die. I do not have a martyr complex. But unfortunately, I do realize the world we live in, that once you got a martyr behind something, people will usually tend to follow. That's just the way it works. Hey, this guy is willing to die for something. Let's check it out and see what he was talking about. Well, okay, in short, it's basically the Streisand effect. The more you try to cover something up, the more that people are going to have an interest in it. On the other hand, if you went and just let it be, hardly anyone would know about it. And keep in mind, me personally, I do not have a problem with Islam, alright? I tend to have a problem with censorship. And that's my main problem right now. If Islam was being censored, I would go and argue in favor of Islam to be able to go and preach and say what they want, not necessarily practice what they want, in terms of killing and everything, but I would at least allow them to go and have the right to go and express what they think and believe. I'd be entirely against it, but I believe they should have that right. However, the way it is now, Islam is trampling on the rights of others to say and practice what they believe. Therefore, that is why I have an issue with Islam. If I could actually say the stuff that I am saying right now and not have to fear for my life, this video would not even exist. But then again, we live in the world we live in, unfortunately, and not the one that we wished we lived in. And frankly, when it comes to Muslims' crisis of faith, my way of looking at it, I just really don't care because I'm not a Muslim, as I have said time and again. I'm a Christian by nature. That's the belief I assign to. If you don't want to assign to it, if you'd rather go and sign up for some other religion or sign up for no religion at all, that's fine. I don't care. The point is, I do not expect the way I want to live my life to be mirrored in other people. I live my life the way I want to, and I expect others to do the same. Again, you cannot save anyone's soul except your own. Go and work on yourself, then worry about everyone else. If people don't want to believe in something, they don't have to believe it. That's their choice, and there isn't really much you can do or say that will convince them otherwise. You can get them to pay lip service, but the words in their lips and the word in their heart are two different things. And as I believe someone working for Charlie Hebdo went and said, I would much rather die on my feet than live on my knees. If I cannot live the life that I wish to live, I would rather be dead. Honestly, that's the way I look at it. If my faith actually gets me killed, if telling the truth gets me killed, I'm fine for it. Because that actually goes and points out that there is something wrong with the world where you cannot go and tell the truth or speak truth without being in fear of your life. And frankly, as crisis of faith goes in the Muslim community about their prophet, I really don't care. If you're a Sunni or a Shiite, my advice is to go and do what all Muslims are good at and just basically kill one another. That seems to be the only defining trait that Muslims have. You think different than I do, you therefore must die because Allah is not God, I am God, and my interpretation is the Word of God, and I will go and kill you because what you believe should be no different than what I believe. And personally, I'm all on board with Muslims killing Muslims over their faith. That's fine with me. If you're a Muslim and you subscribe to this stuff, then that means you accept everything that comes with it. However, guess what? Most of the world is not Muslim. In fact, me personally, I am definitely not one. So answer me this here. Why should another person's belief dictate my actions? This is like saying, I believe in X, Y, and Z, and because of this here, that means I expect you to do whatever, and if you don't do this, I want to punish you because my belief says I can punish people who don't live according to my belief. That would make no sense at all. We do not live in a theocracy. And therefore, because we do not live in one, why therefore should we act like we do? This is stuff like Charlie Hebdo and everything else and all. We go and see people who go and question them and then is killed for actually raising valid points. Tell me, if this is such a religion of peace, then why do they get violent when you raise legitimate points that expose us being complete bullshit? If you actually believe in what you are selling, then you should at least be able to go and handle valid criticism. If you can't, then your religion is junk. I don't care what your religion is. Learn to question your own beliefs. That's one thing people need to do. Learn to question your beliefs so you can better understand what it is you actually believe and figure out what your religion is actually about. Blind faith is dead faith. It doesn't matter what you believe if you're just blindly following along. When you actually sit down and do the internal thinking and everything else, realize that this makes sense and then follow it, it tends to mean a lot more and tends to go and have a lot more purpose in people's lives. But again, Islam can't do that. They know that it's bullshit. And because of this here, that's why they have to kill people, because their faith is literally that weak. If your faith is so weak that criticism and people wanting to leave must be punished with death, then it kind of tells me that you are not in the truth at all. In fact, you couldn't be more far removed from it if you even tried. In fewer words, what I am saying is this here. Yes, I do have a problem with Islam. A major problem with Islam. And it has nothing to do with irrational fear. It has to do because I actually know what it is they believe. But here's the problem. We are expected to make nice with people that want to destroy us. They actively want to go and turn every last person on the planet into a Muslim and to kill every last Jew there is. This is the two goals of Islam. Spread the faith and kill the Jew. And to go and have it set up that we can't even question them without being labeled hateful and everything else? What is wrong here? Since we're so busy playing nice to the Islamists, here's an idea for you. Let's go and put a yellow star on every last Jew there is. Make it mandatory by state law. Why? That way, if an Islamist comes across a Jew, he can kill him on the spot. Because, you know what? If they want to go and have mandatory genocide going on in their own country, who cares? You don't want to be a racist now, do you? Better help to form mass genocide and be an open-minded individual, you know what I'm saying? Hell, let's go and actually give them the address to every Jew's house. That way they can just go door to door and make it simple. Oh, and people like Donald Trump, who wants to get rid of the Islamists, you know, the guys that are going around and killing everyone and blowing themselves up, let's ignore him, shall we? After all, he's literally Hitler. And also, while we're at it, let's go and focus on the true problem of religion that exists in our country. Christianity. As we all know, they're nothing but a bunch of butt-fucking pedophiles who hate the gay. And you know what? We can go and question them, insult them, attack them, and do whatever else. Say whatever we want. Because you know what? We don't have to worry about getting our heads cut off when we do it. So let's go and concentrate on Christianity. They're the real threat and the real target, and you don't get killed when you go and say anything you shouldn't. It's a win-win. And besides, nothing goes and says tolerance quite like attacking a reformed religion and defending a religion that still goes and endorses everything I just listed. But then again, what did you expect when we're in this cult of tolerance? And when I say tolerance, I don't mean learning to accept opinions different than yours. I'm not talking about that tolerance. I'm talking about the tolerance that goes, we are right, we are correct, we will tell you what to think, we will tell you what to say, and you will do all of this because we are tolerant. This is the kind of tolerance I'm talking about. The kind where the word does not equal what you think it means. And I could go in depth about this, but this video is already about 20 minutes long. Therefore, I'm just going to go and hand it off to someone else. Link in the description, because this guy managed to wrap it up in 7.5 minutes, and let's be honest, we all need a break from this long video.